Alabama back in the top spot in recruiting. They are number one in the nation. The cold summer in Tuscaloosa continues. Just when you think it couldn't get any colder, we got to this weekend. Alabama lands five-star wide receiver Caleb Cunningham. They land five-star offensive tackle Ty Haywood, and the Bama train keeps rolling. We got Andrew Bone with Bama Online in this video because there could be even more. Look, Alabama fans, you guys want to stay number one. There's some more five stars on the board. We're going to talk about it in this video. But first, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. Exciting times for Bama fans. Want you to be a part of it because we're covering Bama recruiting all summer long. All right, let's bring in Andrew Bone from Bama Online. It's been a five-star weekend. Now, before we get to some of the five-star intel, there was another commitment that was supposed to go down. Wide receiver Derrik Meadows out of Las Vegas. This thing was coming down to either Notre Dame, Alabama, or LSU. He was set to announce on Saturday. That morning, he announces, hey, I'm pushing this back a week. What does that mean for Alabama? One, now that they landed Caleb Cunningham, and two, now that he's moved it back a week.
Yeah, I think with Alabama going into this recruiting cycle, they were wanting to get at least two wide receivers. They had a great wide receiver class last year, which included Ryan Williams, five-star wide receiver. And then Alabama fans know this, but many other fans may not know, is Caleb Cunningham, who was ranked as a five-star tight end in the class, moved to wide receiver. So getting only a couple of wide receivers in this year's class was, it was a priority, but they weren't going to go out and sign 4 or 5 wide receivers. They've got 2 right now in Lazier Brooks, who's a top 100 receiver out of New Jersey, and then getting Caleb Cunningham was a huge get for the Crimson Tide on Saturday. But now, it kind of depends on who's going to be that next guy to potentially jump on board. And with Derrik Meadows, this is a guy that visited Alabama on June the 21st. There was a lot of buzz coming out after that weekend about Alabama's chances, but we've heard Notre Dame, LSU certainly been fighting hard for him and certainly consider him a top priority. And as of Friday, we were hearing that Alabama was still in communication with Derrik Meadows. There's still a lot of interest there, so be interesting kind of see what happens over the course of the next few days leading up to that announcement next Saturday. So I think Alabama's still in it. Probably lean a little bit more towards LSU and Notre Dame fighting it out, but you never know. I don't think you can discount Alabama, or give them any sort of slack here. I think they've got a chance potentially to add one more wide receiver, but it's just going to kind of depend on who's it going to be between Derrik Meadows and potentially Khik Lockett.
Yep. And I was going to ask you about Khik Lockett, who's out of Saxe, Texas. Now, he is going to make his decision August 7th. So it's going to be about 2 weeks after we hear from Derrik Meadows. So what do you think that means? Would Alabama, if they could take one of the two, would they probably rather have Lockett on their commit list?
Well, I think when you look at the rankings, obviously Lockett's ranked a little bit higher, but Derrik Meadows has been a guy that Alabama's liked for a long time. He's a bigger body wide receiver, 6 foot, over 6'5", almost 200 pounds, physical guy. But they love Khik Lockett as well. It's kind of a surprise kid for Alabama in this summer because he wasn't even taking an official visit to Alabama until about a week before it happened, which was June the 17th. So he came in for an official. All of a sudden, Alabama's in that top 2. So I don't think Alabama really expected to be in the position that they are in with Khik Lockett heading into his announcement. So I don't want to say that Alabama is going to take one over the other. I think they would. Derrik Meadows decided to pick up the phone and call Alabama and say, "Hey, coach, I'm ready to commit." I don't think they're going to turn him down at all. But they also really like Khik Lockett. I think a lot of eyes are going to be on what's Lockett going to do later this month. Is he going to take another visit? Is he going to get back to Tuscaloosa? Is he going to get out to Austin, Texas, or maybe one of these other schools? I think that's kind of the way we're kind of looking right now is what is Khik Lockett going to do before that big announcement on August the 7th. But Alabama's in a really good spot position-wise at the receiver position with those two guys that they have right now. I think they would be fine only taking 2, but they would certainly love to add either Derrik Meadows or Khik Lockett over the course of the next month or so.
Yeah, and I get it. Derrik Meadows, 6'6", 200 pounds. If he wants in, there's just no way you can turn him down. There's not a lot of wide receivers with that sort of frame and that sort of ability in this class. So there's one more big-time target on offense that I want to talk about, and that's A.K. Deer. Now, the running back from Mississippi decommitted from Ole Miss about 2 or 3 weeks ago now. Thought it might be a flip situation as soon as he decommitted, where I thought he might go right to Alabama. But he's kind of pushed the brakes on his recruitment a little bit. And do you think if, hey, the weekend's still not over, so we'll see what happens. But do you think he could take this into the fall?
I'd be surprised if that happens. With visits coming up here, the dead period reopening here pretty soon, I think we're going to see weekend in July. Obviously, Alabama would love to have him on campus for their big cookout with a lot of their guys that are on board, especially the guys that have recently committed. Ty Haywood, Caleb Cunningham, 2 5-stars who announced for Alabama this weekend have both said that they're going to be back at the cookout on July the 28th. So Alabama would certainly love to have A.K. Deer on campus as well. I think there's a pretty good chance that Alabama can get this wrapped up. Now, we don't know as far as a decision date or anything like that just yet, but Alabama has been trending heavily for A.K. Deer, the number 2 running back in the country. And this has been this isn't somebody that just all of a sudden came out of nowhere for Alabama. Crimson Tide's been recruiting A.K. Deer since last year. Strong relationship with running backs coach Robert Gillespie, who was on the former staff, been there for a long time. Always kind of been in that top 2 range with Deer. And then he came in for that official visit on June the 14th, had a great time. And then obviously we saw him decommit from Ole Miss, and it's trending heavily towards Alabama. I think it's just really kind of a matter of when this decision is going to take place.
Yeah, and, we saw Caleb Cunningham and Ty Haywood announce their commitments this weekend. Neither of them put a decision date on it. Neither of them said, hey, I'm going to announce Saturday, I'm going to announce Sunday. They just called up Hayes Fawcett and said, hey, fire away. I guess that's how it goes in the recruiting world these days.
Right.
So we didn't really have an idea when they were going to commit. So we'll see about A.K. Deer. I mean, like I said, Sunday's not over. The weekend's not over yet. We'll see what happens. If for Bama fans out there watching recruiting, like you said, that they are almost finished with this class. But what are some other names out there that Bama fans should have an eye on?
Well, obviously, we're watching A.K. Deer pretty closely. The wide receivers that we mentioned, I think the offensive line class is wrapped up with the Haywood commitment. I think the biggest areas that we're watching right now, especially on the defense side of the ball, is defensive line. What's going to happen with Justice Terry, 5-star D lineman out of Georgia? I do think it's going to come down between Alabama and Georgia for the former Georgia and former USC commitment. But there's obviously a lot of confidence over in Athens that Terry's going to jump back on board with them. But I think Alabama has certainly been a big factor there. I think he had a great official last month, and if they can get him back on campus for that cookout on July the 28th, I think that improves their chances even more. Floyd Boucard, who's going to be announcing his decision next Saturday on July the 20th. That's the guy that has Alabama in his top 4. Right now, it seems like he's going to end up going elsewhere, but Alabama's certainly been involved with him. And then Ty Jackson, number 1 linebacker in the country. Alabama has a great linebacker class, but he's certainly a player that they're going to continue to pursue all the way until he makes that decision. He's going to wait a while. He's going to wait until December the 4th, that first week of the early signing period, to announce his decision. So we're going to be tracking that one pretty closely for the next several months. But, overall, the class is pretty much done. I mean, they've got 22 commitments. They've certainly hit on several key needs in this class. I think the biggest thing right now is you got to hold on to these commitments. It's going to be a big upcoming season. A lot of people are excited about it, but you're also waiting to see how this staff is going to perform on the field. And you've also got a lot of schools that are going to be trying to steal, some of these Alabama commitments away from them. So it's going to be a busy fall with a lot of business happening. But I think the good thing for Alabama is the majority of their commitments have already taken all of their official visits and have pretty much shut things down. There's still going to be a few guys that are going to take some visits in the fall. But for the most part, this class has been well put together by this staff, and most of these guys have already taken all their visits.
And Bama has the number one class in America. Alabama fans, talk to us. Comment section below. How do we feel about ending the weekend with the number one class in America? We'll see if they still have the number one class next week. There's a lot of recruiting that goes on. But Bama fans, let me know, who are the final pieces you want to add to this class? Let us know. Comment section below.